Your Words Destroyed My Planet, the stream series. The edited version. Originally streamed live at twitch.tv/dualitiesdownfall. More information in the description.
Your Words Destroyed My Planet. Chapter 40. You have your doubts about this thing. Dave said he'd meet you at his place in the morning. Or, you told him you'd pick him up there, and he didn't say no. But you're not sure that he's gonna go through with this. Dave isn't a fan of therapy. You knew he'd lose his shit when he found out about you going. It's kind of why you didn't tell him. You were gonna, just not yet. It's not like you don't get why the whole thing sets his teeth on edge. He's got more reason than anyone to feel like that. The thing is that you can't imagine what'd have to be going down in his life for him to decide to even see one. You've read over your conversation with him several times, and it's pretty clear that his think sponge is fried to shit right now, and not to be heartless about the situation, but it's not like that's entirely new. When the two of you were younger and your ancestors were inflicting all kinds of terror on your minds daily, he never cracked. He didn't tell anyone about what was happening. He didn't ask for help. He didn't do anything. So why now? If it was that he saw you getting help and wanted to get help as well, then either he wouldn't have blown up the way he did, or when he messaged you, he'd have said that was what he wanted. So, color you curious. Also concerned. The concern is definitely pretty high on that list. Still, Dave said therapy, and you said how high. Wait, no, that metaphor didn't work. Or did it? Whatever. The point is that you ain't about to talk Dave out of this. You wish you could like Dave more than you do. He gets you. But unfortunately, that means that he gets you in ways that both of you wish he wouldn't. You see him, he sees you. No one has fun with that. The thing is, though, things have been good for you lately. How were you to know that the ending of all these secrets would make you feel so much lighter? You're not pretending that you're something you're not. You don't appreciate people gawping at you, and you're really unfucking mused at the shit people were reposting online about your ancestoring you, and obviously there's still consequences to happen with the fleet. You're not saying things are without problems, but it's better. You're not eyeing everyone up. Do they know but haven't been marked yet? Do they feel the things you do? You're not going about your life filled with a rage that had become background noise. When every minor disagreement with someone who didn't know left your bone marrow screaming that they owe their life to your motherfucking sacrifices. But now they know. Now people see you and know the shit you endure to keep them out of the snarling maw of the dark. And you can look them in the eyes and make them acknowledge that, even if it's just in their heads. You don't have to pretend that everything is fine, that your job is just going to stupid space rocks and doing the dangerous shit. You don't have to act like all you are is some space soldier. It's so much better now that you don't have to lie to your Moirail. Guilt weighs pretty heavy on your thorax with that hefty thought. Maybe if Karkat had known sooner, then things with him could have been saved. By the time he blew the whole thing open, you were both past that point. But still. No. You've been over this. You need to talk to yourself like you were talking truth to Kid Gansey or any Gamzee between the start of this and when everything came out. Tavros says that it's easier if you think of that part of you as another person. You don't know how much that is true, but it's a little easier if you pick yourself at a point in time instead of you in general. You were made to understand that you couldn't spill your guts about the void and the balance. Not doing so was smart. Just look at how the captain handled it. On top of that, if you'd told Karkat, he'd inevitably have done something. You were right to know that you couldn't tell him and have it stay as just him. If Karkat had known, then, you wouldn't have had to be so tight-lipped. You wouldn't have had to keep things back that weighed your soul down. Things that your Moirail should have been able to help you shift. But the you that was around back then was made to stay quiet, and it would have gone wrong if you'd opened your mouth. You shouldn't feel guilty. Carquette's hurt face flashes through your mind. The confrontation outside of the bar burnt in there forever. You know it was quick. You know it hurt his feelings, but you never planned it like that. Fuck. Can't you just be happy? Chuckle voodoos start to seep out of your think sponge, and you stamp down on them real quick. No need to go sharing your bad vibes around, even if you did bring enough for the class. Besides, you can miraculously transmute those bad feelings into good ones now, because you're on your way to help the only other motherfucker around here that's more messed up than you are. Dave is outside. Not outside the ship, not this time. No, he's got his ass parked on the floor outside of his hive stem. His under eyes are dark enough that they could be yours. His hair's all over the place, and he has a hospital bracelet on his wrist. You come to a stop by him and give him a concerned look.
I didn't think you'd be out here. I could have gone up to yours, even with Carquette and Solix there.
You say slowly. Dave mumbles and clumsily stands up.
Thing is that I can't go up there. Our favorite terrorist friend discharged me last night, but I couldn't go back up there. Didn't have anywhere else to go either. Nowhere else I wanted to, so...
Dave adds, holding out the hospital band like he hadn't already spotted it.
Why can't you go up there?
You ask him.
I'm sure your brain witch will want to know all about it, and I don't want to repeat myself. Can we go?
Dave asks, crossing his arms and looking away from you. You incline your horns a little and sweep the rest of you around with them, leading the way for Dave. He follows you, but doesn't seem too happy.
He's a guy,
you say, a few seconds later.
What?
Dave asks.
My therapist. He's a guy. You called him a brain witch?
You explain.
It's the 22nd century, Gamzee. Men can be witches too,
he says flatly. You don't really have much of anything to say to that. You lead Dave to the doc's place. Dave doesn't say a lot on the way there, which is pretty unusual for him. Dave's mouth could run marathons. What he does say, and says several times, is, "I don't want to do this." He never stops following you, and he never tells you that he's turning back. He just keeps saying it. When you get inside the building, Dave looks like he's going to throw up. But to give him credit, he doesn't hurl his guts, and he doesn't leave. Dave waits at your side until the administrator who deals with several doctors on this floor tells you that you can go in. He doesn't say a thing about Dave from behind his admin desk. You figure he's not in the business of questioning who you're bringing in or why. Your doc does notice Dave when you lead him into the doc's cozy little office. His teal eyes widen for just a split second as he looks at Dave. "Hey there, go say hi," the doc says to his little bark beast. In the corner of the room, the doc's little dog perks up and hurries over to you and Dave on little legs. Dave had been frozen in panic, but thanks to Beck's training, a dog is a pretty surefire way to pull him back to reality. The small, happy pup gets up on her back legs and rests her little paws on your knee. Her little tail nub wiggles back and forth for a moment before she moves on from you and gets up to put her feet on Dave's knee.
Her name is Cinnamon Toast,
you tell Dave conspiratorially.
Cinnamon Toast?
Dave asks in a high-pitched tone of distress as he visibly restrains himself from petting her. You can pet her. Gamzee, why have you brought someone to your appointment? The doc asks you.
Oh my god, your name is Cinnamon Toast and you're just a little corgi. Oh fuck, how are you so cute?
Dave whispers to the dog, already crouched down and petting her big, rounded triangle ears.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Remember I told you about Dave? This is Dave. He's admitted that he needs help, like, for real, but he's kind of fucked up enough about it that he's not willing to see anyone that he doesn't trust, and me trusting you is about as close to that as you're gonna get. I know you're probably gonna say that you can't see both of us, since I know Tav's guy wouldn't see me, since it's a conflict of... You wave your hand as you try to think about what you mean. You shouldn't see people who know each other. It's bad practice. The doc nods. Right. Thing is, though, he won't go and see anyone else, and he told me that he's not in a place to handle looking for anyone. But if I'm honest, man, it's more that he needs the help real fucking bad. On top of that, I know pretty much all of his old traumatic shit, same as he knows mine, so it's not like there's a lot of new stuff there. I can answer questions for him and help him see that you can be trusted. Really, he needs this.
You insist. That's not really how this works. The doc frowns at you.
Hey, I don't want to be here with him forever when you two are doing your thing, and I don't want him at my sessions forever. I'm just here as backup for this. Dave told me before he'd die before he'd go to therapy, so for him to be here at all means that something's really wrong. If it's not you, it's nobody. Please?
You beg. The doc looks down at Dave, who's crouched on the floor with cinnamon toast, and you look at him to see Dave intently staring back at the doctor as well.
Please, you whisper.
Your doctor sighs and drags his good hand through his hair, his tablet pen clicking against his thin vertical horns. He nods, so you sit down on the lounge plank and motion to Dave for him to join you. Dave does, although his movements are stiff and tense. This is not how things are supposed to be, and this is not a good idea. I'm trying to believe that Gamzee would not bring someone here if there was a better solution, though I can't really see what that'd be. But for now, I'll humor you both. Dave, why don't you tell me why you wanted to come here today? The doc asks.
I don't want to be here.
Dave answers him stiffly. Oh, fair enough. I don't see people who don't want help. The door is there, the doc says, and waves his hand at the door you both came in through. Dave moves, but you press your hand down firmly on his leg and start talking before this can all go wrong.
Dave has a pretty bad history with you people. His parents were in your field. Kind of. They're the whole reason he's so fucked up, and for him, therapy and torture are the same goddamn thing, so he's not really going to feel good here. Dave was the one who asked me to bring him here, though. He wants this done, even if he doesn't want to be here.
You explain. Dave and the doc look at each other in silence for a few moments. You don't trust mental health professionals, then? He asks Dave.
We can do away with you pretending that you don't know shit about me. Everyone knows about me now, thanks to that goddamn virus. There's no way some psych fucker didn't go looking into every little detail, so spare me the foreplay before you fuck around in my brain.
Dave hisses. The doc considers that silently for a moment, and then makes a note on his tablet. I realize that I can't prove this, but I haven't read your file. I'm aware that you're a balancer and something of your relationship with Gamzee, but not much beyond that. I never opened your file, and I certainly didn't feel the need to go through it. What I'm more interested in is why you think that someone in my profession wouldn't be able to resist that. I'm curious about your impression of my profession. So, if your parents shared my vocation, then why don't you tell me about them? The doc asks. Dave goes stiff at your side, and you look at him again. He doesn't look like he's panicking, not outwardly. He looks controlled, if a little tense. But you know Dave's panic when you see it.
Want me to give him the basics about them? You can add on.
You suggest. Dave nods, the movement jerky and robotic.
Dave's mom and his biological father, Bro.
You start.
He's not my dad. Dad is my adoptive dad.
Dave mumbles.
Right, they're different people. Don't get them mixed up.
You agree. I can probably look his family up on this ship. There aren't so many humans, so... The doc types for a moment and then turns the screen around to show Dave's genetic and adoptive family in a search.
That's them.
You agree, and the doc takes a moment to sort out this information into the note files that you know he uses for his sessions. When it seems like he's done, you start talking again.
Dave's bio parents were in your field, kind of. His mom was more in the physics kind of science, but she did the whole psychological thing, too. Bro was the same, but he was more into the psych stuff. They were investigating the void. Not freelance or anything, they were on some kind of contracted research to do it, and there were more people than just them. They had loads of subjects, other balancers that they'd discovered, people they thought might be balancers or could be. They got prisoners as well, which is all kinds of fucked up. They were trying to figure out what makes us able to do what we do and how it works. You explain.
Go on. The doc nods, still writing as he says it.
They noticed that a lot of us were fucked up.
You tell him. Fucked up how? He asks you, looking up from his tablet.
Traumatized.
Dave grits out.
I have a bad feeling about where this is going, the doc says quietly.
A quiet and slightly hysterical laugh bubbles out of Dave, the kind where it might turn into tears if you give it a chance.
Yeah, you're right on that. They figured that you could mess people up, then you could get balancers. It's not that simple, but it does work sometimes. But they did all kinds of shit to work out how our abilities work. They tried to get proof of things. Getting people to read cards and shit by having their ghost look at it and tell them the answer, then they'd shock them if they got it wrong. Or they'd stop them from sleeping or eating or throw them in...
You list off.
Can we not...
Dave chokes out.
I think I get the picture.
Your doc nods slowly.
Right. Thing is, they got Dave involved in this when he was real small. He was basically blind back then. I mean, check the eyes now.
You say, and gesture to Dave's face. You pause and try to steel yourself for this part. The thing about your deepest dream spaces is that the feelings you had in the moments that forged them linger. When you're in Dave's, you pick up his feelings, and vice versa. You felt what he felt back then. The desire to help. The little kid belief that if he just did the right thing, then things would get better. You've felt that, and you've felt how it turned to helplessness and fear. How he was alone and no one was coming to help him. That feeling permeates your own dreams for your own reasons, but the symmetry is there. That's why you're here with him as backup for this appointment. He doesn't have to be scared and alone here. You're at his side, so neither of you is that terrified and lonely kid again.
Some of the void stuff hits our senses differently. For some people it's sight or sound, or other people get touch or whatever. Sight's pretty common, so they wanted to know if you're really seeing it, since not everyone can, or if your think sponge just translates what it gets into a sense it knows. They had a kid who was basically blind and a family history of balancing, not to mention a method of making balancers, so...
You trail off and wave your hand at Dave. The doc's pen has frozen over his tablet, and for several long seconds the room is quiet. He opens his mouth, but he doesn't speak right away, and when he does, his voice is soft.
I'm going to leave aside how that's not how you're supposed to do any kind of science, and it's absolutely not how you're supposed to parent. It's not how you're supposed to treat any child. I can see why psychological terms or specific things like note-taking and observation could be triggering. But has something happened since that's specific to therapy? Because even legitimate psychological research is vastly different to the practice of therapy here. Or is this an understandable bias to the whole and very broad discipline? He asks Dave.
I don't like the note-taking, but I hate being filmed and recorded more if it's something like this.
Dave says slowly. I do need some records. Would handwritten notes only be acceptable if I showed you what I've written? The doc offers and holds the tablet out to Dave, who doesn't read it.
I also just don't trust you people. You're fucked up by definition.
Dave adds, and the doc takes his tablet back, but settles it in his lap. He folds one leg over the other and rests his hands on the arms of his chair.
All right, elaborate on that. I won't be offended. Clearly no progress is going to happen if you don't trust me at least a little, and I can't help unless I know why you feel that way, he says.
Dave and the doc stare at each other, leaving you and Cinnamon Toast to watch uncomfortably.
I'm not saying that you can't do the things you say you do,
Dave begins.
But people get into professions for all sorts of reasons. Not you guys, though. You're interested in getting in people's heads and fucking around with what's there. Making people think things they weren't thinking before, changing who they are as people into who you want them to be. No other field of medicine is like that. If someone wanted to become a surgeon, and in their interview for med school, if they were all like, oh, yeah, I just love people's insides and all the blood. I fucking love getting my hands in there and touching all that shit that they need to live, Dave exclaims. No entry to med school for you, and maybe investigate any missing persons cases. That'd be the answer to that.
You snort. right? But no, it's cool to be like, oh no, I love how fucked up people are and changing how their whole ass minds work, Dave exclaims.
You have a point,
the doc says with a tight smile. You wait patiently, because you know what's coming next. It's why you trust this guy, and why you know Dave can.
I didn't actually introduce myself earlier. My name is Kotar Delusion, he says politely.
Dave mouths the word silently for a second. Like, delusion? Your name is a psych thing? Dave asks him incredulously.
It is. Well done. It's not an aptonym, by the way. I picked this name for myself. Do you know what Kotar's delusion is? The doc asks. Dave shakes his head slowly. Maybe he does know about it, but just in Spanish. I guess you're gonna find out. So, here's the thing. When I was in school, late high school to beginning of higher education kind of age, I started getting really on edge. Paranoid, almost. I couldn't sleep well. Things were just a lot for me. I went to therapy and was waved away with a diagnosis of anxiety. They thought that it was set off by transitioning between one level of study to another. I'm sure for most people that would have been right, but it didn't work for me. I tried a few basic kinds of therapy, but if anything, things seemed to get worse. I gave up and decided I'd push through it, and none of my doctors seemed too concerned, so I stopped going. Cotard explains.
Okay,
Dave says. I was experiencing a very low mood, and I started becoming obsessed with not becoming sick. Initially, it started as an attempt to try to keep myself healthy in an effort to have better sleep and feel better, but it progressed. And then I started properly manifesting Cotard's delusion. In Cotard's delusion, patients become entirely convinced that they or part of their bodies are dead. No evidence can sway someone with this, and it is as real as you are before me now. The delusion sometimes occurs after damage to the brain or think sponge from seizures or other trauma, but it is also present in some patients with schizophrenia, like me. I was convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that my hand was dead and rotting on my arm. I could see every detail of it, feel it, smell it, touch it, everything. He goes on.
Holy shit,
Dave whispers. Holy shit indeed. I knew no one would believe me, that no one else could see the truth that was right in front of me. I couldn't go back to my doctors. I'd gone before and they'd not listened to me. For all I knew, it was something they'd given me that done this. I was paranoid and unstable. When I got medical help, it wasn't by my own choice. It was because I'd broken into one of the engineering workshops and cut my hand off with a bandsaw. Cotard says brightly and holds up his arm with the teal-colored metal plate hand.
You cut your own hand off?
Dave gasps. I did. It was the best thing I ever did. Well, obviously it was a terrible thing to do, but it led to me being properly diagnosed, properly treated, and stabilized. Medications for schizophrenia are far better than they once were, but there's no cure. I have Cinnamon Toast here to greet people for me. She only says hello to people who are really here, not people I see that aren't real. The thing is, after I recovered into a stable state, I was very angry. I was angry that no one had listened or cared sooner, that I had to go this far before someone helped me. So I became determined to get the kind of qualifications that would allow me to be the help that I never got. I've got no interest in manipulating people into being people that they're not. My interest lies in stopping people and helping them before it comes to this. So I renamed myself, and here I am, he says, with a wave of his metal hand.
You must have been pretty desperate,
Dave says quietly, his eyes on the ground instead of on the doc himself. I think you must be pretty desperate to come to me after going through what Gamzee has just told me about. So, why are you here now? What has pushed you to this point of desperation that you're willing to put yourself in my hands, in a move that must feel as kill or cure as my amputation was for me? Cotard asks Dave softly. Dave doesn't answer for a bit. He just looks at Cinnamon Toast on the floor. She's laid out in the middle of the room, her chubby little sausage body and stumpy legs rolling about happily.
There's... Dave sighs and tries again. I'd have to go back a bit.
By all means. I'll be taking notes now, if that's all right with you. I will show them to you afterwards. The doc nods, tablet pen poised.
When my parents had me and when they were studying me, you can't tell people about the void. You're not supposed to. That's why this whole virus thing was so fucked. I couldn't tell or I'd risk hurting my siblings, and if I told them, then they'd probably end up in the lab too. Mom and bro always like to threaten us with each other. If you didn't do something, they'd take it out on one of the others, that kind of thing. I had to lie about it.
Dave explains slowly. That's a fucked up thing to do to any child, much less your own. I'm sorry that happened to you. Go on? Cotard says sincerely, looking up at Dave as he continues writing.
Yeah, I know. Point is, you get good at lying, at hiding shit, he says.
I can see how that would be a skill that would be required. The doc agrees.
So, I played the person they had to think I was. I couldn't let on about the stuff that happened at the lab or they'd get hurt. When we were taken away and moved here since Dad adopted us, it was the same. I couldn't tell anyone about the void because it was dangerous. Talking about the lab would just open questions. The other balancers found out about me and told me I couldn't talk either. I was used to it, though. No big deal. I got a girlfriend, got friends. I still saw Bro's ghost all the time, but other than that, I was living pretty normally. I could talk about some of this stuff with Gamzee when he became a balancer. Same with the rest of them. Gamzee knows a lot of stuff about the lab, but
Dave looks at you a little helplessly.
Our shit's pretty mirrored. We both have things we don't or can't talk about to everyone else, and since we end up in each other's dreams sometimes, or a lot when we were kids, you try not to get any deeper in each other's business than you gotta. That's why we're not friends. We know too much. It's not comfy. You explain.
I can see how that would have the potential to be disquieting. The doc acknowledges, but you get the feeling that he thinks that you two probably should be friends. The doc shifts his attention from you back to Dave. Dave has fallen silent, which made sense when you were talking, but now it's like he's lost the momentum and clammed up. After enough time that things start getting awkward, Cotard looks back down at his notes and speaks. Going back over that, then. You were raised and continued to live in an environment where you had to keep very big secrets and live a double life. This actually applied to both of you until very recently. Is that an accurate interpretation of that? He asks. You and Dave both nod. You've already had discussions with the good doc here about how you feel about that. He wants to know how Dave feels about that, and you're pretty curious yourself. You know Dave is also pissed off about his family and Karkat acting without thinking about the consequences, along with all of the fallout that you're going to have to deal with. You also know he's not a fan of being stared at either, so that's not great. All that said, though, your feelings on how things are after all the secrecy got smashed to shit have changed. You looked around and realized, oh, not so bad after all. You don't know what might have changed with Dave, but you're going to guess it's not as positive as your shit is. Dave still ain't talking. Okay, let's come at this from another angle then. How have people reacted to finding out about this secret-keeping behavior? Cotard asks. You laugh a little mirthlessly, and Dave sighs. My family were the ones who released the virus and made it so there weren't any secrets anymore. Them and Karkat and a couple of our friends. Dave says flatly. The doc knows about all of this from you, and that wasn't what he was asking. Right, I suppose treason is technically a reaction, but that wasn't really the question I was getting at. What I mean is, how has interacting with them after that gone? What conversations have you had with people close to you about this? How do you feel about that? Cotard prompts him. Dave makes an uncertain noise, looking at the floor instead of the doc. Can I pet your dog? I have a service dog, Beck. He helps me when my eyes are offline or when I need company. He does emotional support for my ex-girlfriend, too. We still share him, though.
I don't want to pet your dog outside of saying hello if she's working unless I've got permission, so...
Dave asks. You may pet my dog, under one condition, Cotard says, and holds up one teal steel finger.
That you immediately show me a picture of your dog.
Dave laughs, quiet, but the doc still startled the sound out of him pretty good. Dave pulls his palm husk out and taps at the screen for a moment, then turns to show it to the doc. You watch as Dave swipes through a few pictures, and the doctor reacts with total delight and adoration. With his price paid, Dave is allowed to pet Cinnamon Toast, who is thrilled with this turn of events. So, as we were saying, how have those conversations gone? Cotard presses. He's not so easily distracted, even with pictures of Beck. Dave looks down at Cinnamon Toast in silence for a moment, squishing her fuzzy cheeks and scratching behind her ears. Eventually, he speaks.
Not been much of a conversation. Didn't really want to talk to any of them. After the shit they pulled, I wasn't... Most of them listened, some didn't.
Dave says softly to Cinnamon Toast. What happened with the people who didn't listen? The doc asks. As Dave talks, you realize his voice has shifted, and he's not talking like before. This is almost mission report tone, efficient, sterile, factual.
I woke up after spacing myself and moving the ship with the other balancers. Gamzee had gone into my dreams to get me. We were both pretty much done with things. We went to the sailor bar to get shit-faced together. Not something we do a lot. Not something I should do, because my family has a history of alcohol problems. It wasn't a smart decision, but if anyone else wants to prove they can handle that better, they're welcome to try. We were several drinks in when my brother and sister showed up.
Dave reports. Which brother and which sister? I have your family connection here from the system, but we haven't really spoken about them. Cotard asks, and you see him scrolling up the screen to an earlier point in his notes. You wait as Dave clinically lists off his siblings, explaining the whole thing with the triplets, including that he was still living with Hal at the time. He explains that Rose is his twin, and you think you see something click for the doc as he looks at Rose's profile and takes notes on the side of it. He probably just caught what her job is. Dave explains his adoptive family in the most basic and emotionless terms that he can, before continuing with his account of the night at the bar.
Rose and Dirk showed up, lectured us both about drinking. They were very not sorry about the whole thing. It didn't count because they hadn't meant to tell everyone, but they were just acting in my best interest. I couldn't know what my best interest is because I'm too manipulated, confused, and weak to know what that is. I probably should have been grateful. They lectured me about drinking again, and then I left. I got the bouncer of the bar to make sure they stayed there and didn't follow me home, which kind of worked. When I got home, my other brother Hal was still there, but that didn't go the same.
Dave's tone shifts at the end to something that sounds tired.
I'm really stunned that you didn't lay either of them out. They're not my family, and I wanted to put my fist through both of their faces.
You grumble, but Dave just shrugs. Punching people in the face, the doc begins, but you've got things to say on that subject.
Oh, come on. You can't look me in the eyes and tell me that some people don't just beg to be punched, that some people don't deserve it, and you can't tell me that doing that isn't satisfying as all hell.
You protest. Gamzee, if punching people in the face when they were being terrible didn't feel both righteous and satisfying, then people wouldn't do it. The point is, however, that you still shouldn't punch people in the face. Seeing as it's against the law, and violence is not really mentally healthy, it also has social repercussions too. Generally, it's not a nice thing to do or a good idea, the doctor says patiently.
People in my family punching the shit out of other people in my family never went well before. I'm not gonna try it for myself.
Dave mutters and pets Cinnamon Toast's ears. You see Cotard's eyebrows raise. You don't think Dave realizes that he just admitted to his parents being physically shitty to him and the rest of his siblings outside of the lab. He caught it, though, and you see him make a quick note about it. You mentioned Hal, the other brother of the triplets. How did that go differently? Cotard asks instead.
I came home. I was kind of drunk by then. Okay, real drunk and real blind as well. I got there and Solix was home.
Dave says slowly.
Solix lives with him.
You add. You've already talked about Solix before with the doc, but you'd like it if he didn't repeat that stuff.
Yeah, he didn't break in. That'd be a weird intro to that.
Dave snorts. In fairness, you'd already had quite the eventful day by that point. A break-in wouldn't be entirely off course for how the rest of that day was going. The doc points out, quietly amused. Dave makes a noise that you'd hesitate to call a laugh. It's more like a flat-ish sounding not even a ha, but it's him being very mildly entertained at least.
You're not wrong. Anyway, Solix he's my kismesis, kinda. Pitch is closest. He was concerned about how I was. He and Hal work together, so they're friends. And Hal was one of the ones who wrote this goddamn virus shit. Solix was trying to get him to look at it before he left so that he could try to fix things. Hal's machine literally blew up in his face when the virus was released, and he got a concussion and cuts and whatever, and got sense knocked into him, I guess.
Dave tells Cinnamon Toast.
Well, now there's an idea for making the rest of your family see sense.
You say thoughtfully. That does make Dave laugh. It's still pretty tired out, but it's there. The doc doesn't seem amused, though, so you try to make a gesture to quietly reassure him that you're not actually planning on solving problems with explosives. Even if all your training with explosives has taught you that explosives are a fun and good way to solve all kinds of problems, even problems that could have been solved in other ways.
Well, Hal's seen sense. He was trying to pack his shit up to leave.
Dave goes on. To leave? Cotard asks curiously.
So, this is complicated. My hive is a 3-person one. It used to be me, Hal, and Rose, but Rose wanted to move in with her girlfriend, and Solix had been dating Aradia, but they broke up, so Rose moved out and Solix moved in, which made sense for everyone since Solix works with and is friends with Hal, and me and him have been friends since school. So right then, Hal lived with us, but he thought that'd be a bad idea, so he was getting his shit together to move back in with Dad temporarily, because he thought after the shit he'd just put me through that I wouldn't want to see his face.
Dave explains, gesturing as he talks, and is oblivious to the way that Cinnamon Toast is following his hands like there might be treats in them. That's a pretty different response to Rose and Dirk, the doc observes as neutrally as possible.
Yeah, it was.
Dave says softly and looks back down at the ground. There are a few quiet moments as Dave pets the little bark beast, but he does start talking again.
He said he was sorry, which is whatever. It's just a word. It doesn't mean shit. He said he'd done it because he was scared for me. Scared that I was dealing with all of this alone, that the captain was making me. He's my big brother. He wanted to protect me. But he said that when it blew up in his face, he realized something. He said back then Hal and Dirk are trans, right? Bro wasn't okay with that. Our parents weren't big on approval and reassurance for shit, but when you're a kid, you're programmed to want that stuff. It takes a lot to really grasp that, surprise, dumbass, they don't love you and aren't proud or impressed by anything you do. And you can think you accept that, but still want it deep down. I guess I got out of that earlier than them. I might have been basically blind, but I saw that real clear. But they didn't get the fast track through that process that being a science experiment gets you. And good for them, really.
Dave shrugs. People say it's more intense for humans, the way they bond to their parents. Trolls have a kind of bond with their Lucii, but it's not the same. When it comes to ancestors, it can be really fucking similar. You and Kurlos wanted things from your ancestor as kids, things that other kids didn't want from their Lucii. Karkat didn't like disappointing Crabdad, but he wasn't wounded the way you were if Crabdad was away for a bit or paid more attention to Cancri than him. You were terrified of your ancestor. You still kind of are, but you wanted him to see you as part of him, too. As his descendant, his successor, as part of his genetic lineage, and one who was motherfucking worthy of that claim. You wanted him to treat you even half as well as Lucii treated the kids you knew. Instead, you two were more like a captive audience, kids he was made to pay attention to now and then, and people he could mess up without a lot of questions. You get how Dave's siblings, who didn't go through shit as intensely bad as Dave, could both hate their parents but also want their love, approval, and time. When you're not sure what behavior gets approval or rage, it's hard not to care about the outcome. Dave has nothing but contempt for his parents. He makes no secret when he talks with Bro that he thinks he's a waste of existence, and he's clear about it. But you still see how Bro can still stick the knife in just so and twist it to really hurt Dave. Dave isn't secretly hoping for Bro's approval, and you're not looking for your ancestors either. But both men taught each of you how to think, to speak. They made the walls that gave your minds shape. You can redecorate as much as you like, even knock things down if you're able to, but those foundations are always there. Desperately in need of a punch or not, you can't fault Dave's siblings for falling for that.
When we were younger, I couldn't tell them why I was the only one that went to the lab with Mom and Bro, and if I had said, then they'd end up in the same situation, so I wasn't gonna do that. But Hal didn't know that shit. He's my older brother, him and Dirk both. But in my family, the first son gets to be Dave Strider, and that's me, not them, because they didn't know about Dirk and Hal then, and even if they had, Bro probably wouldn't have given a shit.
Dave sighs. You've never got why some humans have such a problem with this. You really don't. That and only being into certain kinds of people, they just overcomplicate their shit. That sounds like it must have been tense, and like you were being set up for resentment to brew between you, Cotard says gently.
I guess, but we all knew they played mind games. I think the others mostly just thought they were doing it to fuck with us. Hal said that he'd still felt bitter or whatever about it, and then, surprise, it wasn't preferential treatment, it was torture. He felt like shit about it. He felt guilty for everything back then, and he said that he'd done all of this because of it. Set the virus off to set me free. Like, that proved that if he'd have known about this when we were kids, then he'd never have let it happen. Not, like, consciously thinking about it, but he told me that after the Hustop blew up in his face, he realized that he'd been doing it to help, but also kind of a lot to make himself feel better about not stopping it. Like, he'd been so focused on proving that he was helping now and would have then, that he didn't think that hard about if what he was doing was actually helping me at all.
Dave hisses that last part. I have to give him credit for being self-aware at least, even if it was a little too late to stop himself from unleashing a massive virus. The doc nods.
Explosions, you whisper. Gotta start prescribing those. The point is, he said he was sorry and wasn't expecting me to forgive him, so he was gonna go. Also, I was obviously drunk and probably not all there. But he said he'd leave me alone, and if I wanted to talk, then I could hit him up. Until then, he'd leave me be. And he did. We talked a few days after that, and yeah. I'm not forgiving him for what he did, but I get it, and I know he's sorry. He moved out for good, and now Carcat's living with us instead, so that's... yeah. I'm only talking to him right now.
Dave's tail tapers off awkwardly at the end, but he got through it. And the rest of your siblings, or your dad? Cotard asks.
Made it clear I don't want to talk, he answers.
The doc leans back in his chair for a moment and looks over his notes. Dave's attention is still on Cinnamon Toast, but he seems tired. Tired in the kind of way that sleep can't fix. Do you want to talk to them again? Cotard asks finally.
Yes. No. I mean, I miss them, but I can't...
Dave shakes his head, and his shoulders draw in slightly, making him smaller. I see. You didn't really tell me earlier what made you come here today. We've talked about your background a bit and what's happened lately, but why now? What is it that you want? He asks. Dave takes his hands away from the bark beast and tugs at the hospital tag on his wrist. He turns it around a few times in the quiet of the room.
I was on a date. I'm not supposed to like someone like Solix. It's new. But I want this. He asked me on a date. A real one. It's scary, but I wanted it. Want it. I wasn't there, or
was, but wasn't. I wasn't even me a lot. I was making this new... It's like I play different Daves. Depending on who I'm with and what they know and who they think I am, I'm different. It's easier to be Brother Dave, or Sailor Dave, or Balancer Dave, or Friend Dave, than to have to think about what I can't say or do. Solix always saw through that shit, even before he knew about the Void. I like being with him, it's real, but Dave clenches his fists. I don't know who I... Fuck this. Look, I saw my sister. Don't even think she saw me, and I still had a panic attack so bad it put me in the hospital. Can you fix my brain or not? Because I clearly can't do shit like this, okay? Dave asks harshly. Dave is glaring at the doc like it's his fault somehow, but you can feel the fear radiating off of Dave. He's asking for help, not explaining shit, but actually asking for help. Dave's shaking slightly. It's subtle, but you can see it. Cotard gets to his feet and walks off to a big cabinet and takes a decent-sized box out of it. He returns and puts the box on the floor before dragging his little side table over between the three of you. He picks his mug up, has a sip, and tucks it under his chair. If you'll permit me a metaphor here, I think I can sum up what you've told me and what we can do from here, Cotard offers. Dave seems a little thrown, but he nods. The doc reaches into the box and pulls out a glass jar. It's not huge, but not small either, about the same height as one of the large glasses at the bar, but a little thicker. It has a lid that's held on with a hinge on one side and a metal flip-up clasp on the other. Cotard unclasps the lid on one side and flips it open. This jar is you, in this metaphor, he begins. Dave shoots you a skeptical look, but he nods at the doc anyway. The doc pulls a sizable plastic case out of the box next. It opens out like a toolbox, so you can't see much of what's inside. You watch as he scoops his prosthetic hand into the bottom of the box and pulls out a bunch of blue transparent balls. They're each about the size of a big cherry, but perfectly round. Now these represent big events in your life. Anything that was really stressful or impactful. They're not always negative, but it's something big enough to leave a mental mark on you. He explains, and holds one up and squishes it a little to show that they're somewhat flexible. So, what? You add one for each thing? Dave asks curiously. Right. So, being made into the subject of your parents' research at all, the doc says, and drops one into the bottom of the jar. Then the violent aspects of that on top of it, becoming a balancer at all, having to deal with having a ghost. You've told the doc who Dave's ghost is, but he hasn't, unless you missed that. Being haunted by Bro, you mean? Yeah, probably seeing him get spaced too when they executed him counts, I guess. Dave shrugs. That definitely counts, Cotard says slowly, and drops another ball in. Moving to a whole new ship, having to speak a language you weren't that good at. You list off, and the doc adds more for each one. We moved here because we were taken away from Mom and Bro was executed. Dave protests, but Cotard adds another ball as Dave speaks anyway. Coming here and getting adopted wasn't a bad thing. As I said, these things don't always have to be bad, but they are significant. Good stress and bad stress might feel different in the moment, but they're both still stress. The doc explains. I guess, Dave mutters. You spaced yourself. I saw that on the news, and Gamzee already mentioned it. You are also hospitalized after moving the ship. Oh, also, your family history with alcohol counts as a big background factor. Having a prosthetic put in, I like having two hands again just as much as I'm sure you appreciate sight, but it's still a big thing to go through. Cotard lists and adds more and more balls to the jar. Are you gonna mention... You ask warily, but Dave clearly has no more idea where you're going with this than the doc does. Jade? You ask finally. Jade's never done anything wrong, Dave insists. The captain? Cotard asks, obviously confused. No, her granddaughter, my ex, Dave says, obviously still catching himself from saying she's his girlfriend. Was this a bad breakup? The doc asks, ready with another ball, but not yet putting one in.
No, I mean, no one is ever happy to get broken up with. It sucked, but I absolutely get it, and I agree that we should have broken up. If she hadn't broken up with me, then, Solix. We're still friends now. We share Beck.
Dave insists. Do you feel it was significant? Cotard asks.
They were together for 10 years.
You groan. That's significant, no matter how amicable it is. The doc says, and immediately drops a ball in there and stares at you both flatly.
Thanks, Gamzee, Dave mutters. Don't get on my gloves about it. I didn't break up with you.
You shoot back at him. Okay, well, I'm going to add a couple more of these for things you've maybe not told me about or hadn't considered to be major events. Now we move on to these, the doc says, dropping the remaining blue balls back in their part of the box and scooping up some more. These ones are smaller, but still squishy and in a variety of colors. Consider these as smaller things. Things that are in your head as something that you're dealing with right now. Sometimes they're connected to or feed into the bigger stuff you've already got going on in here, but sometimes not. Sometimes these are things like sleeping badly or feeling sick or having one of those days where everything goes wrong. These kinds of things can sometimes come in and out easily, but other times they sit in here taking up space for ages until you deal with them. The doc explains.
Like all the people in my family that I'm not talking to right now. Even though they're leaving me alone, it's still...
Dave gestures vaguely. Weighing on you and taking up space, yes. The doc nods. He pours a handful of these multicolor ones in the jar, and you watch as they bounce about for a second or two and then settle. For demonstration purposes, think of those as representing those things. I'm not going to get into all of that right now. The next are these clear ones. These are things that you don't know are stressing you out. For some people, it's something about themselves that they've not yet figured out, or a need that they didn't know how to meet. For example, it took me way too long to work out that caffeine always made me tense. The staff break room down there had to run out of it for a week before I put two and two together. For some people, there's things like how you organize your things, or if your clothing bothers you in ways that you consider normal but is actually getting to you. They're unknown unknowns. Everyone has some. The doc explains and tips a few in. Dave reaches out and puts his finger into the jar, tipping it enough to look down into it. He smiles, but the expression is tired and without any joy. Kind of hurts to look at, actually.
You're gonna put water in this, aren't you?
Dave asks and sets the jar back upright again. I am. Cotard smiles. He reaches out around the side of his chair and grabs a thermos, one of those water-cooling ones. The two of you watch as he pours water into the jar, and because there's all this junk in it, it doesn't take much. He very carefully gets it to the point where it's one breath away from overflowing.
I'd already thought about this last night. It's like surface tension. Even something that I want that's in any way stressful is...
Dave sighs and reaches out. Dave's finger touches the edge of the water-filled jar at the rim. With him giving the water an exit, a whole lot of it flows down and over the table. Exactly that. You beat me to my own metaphor. So the reason that you're here is that you can't take any more stress or tension, which is what the water was meant to be, without landing yourself in the hospital. Cotard nods and leans back in his chair.
Yeah, so what now then?
Dave asks. The doc waves a hand at the water and orb-filled jar. The obvious answer is that you need to get this stuff out of here. When there's less in here, you'll be able to function more. Watch. Cotard says, and leans forward to pick out one of the blue balls from his box at the side, and also a scalpel. To use myself as an example here, I can say that this represents me being let down by my own medical professionals so badly that I cut off my own hand. Traumatic as shit.
It's not that hard to hold this thing as it is here and say that it was a terrible thing to go through. It's also never going away. No matter how much therapy I go through or how much work I put into myself, that's never changing, and the same goes for you, I'm sorry to say. He says, and Dave nods. You wonder if him not promising to make Dave's problems all go away is reassuring. The hard part is to look at this and see what it does to me. What ideas and behaviors did this give me, and more importantly, are they good for me? Because people let me down when I needed help, I don't trust people very easily, especially if they have power over me. I can see that. But it has meant that I've learnt to trust myself and that I do as much as I can for myself, which isn't bad unless I try to do everything. If I become aware of that and make sure that I'm not refusing to ask for help when I need it, then I'm fine. And because I've processed that, Cotard says, and carefully slices a chunk out of the jelly-like ball. This takes up less space in my head now. It'll never be gone, but it's less. Some of yours can be reduced down a lot, I'd wager. On top of that, a lot of the smaller stresses that you're dealing with now can be unpicked, reframed, and solved. You can take those out entirely. He goes on and puts the scalpel away. The problem here is twofold. Firstly, there's no way that either of us can get our hands into that jar to take anything out without spilling that water. You're not at a place where you can do that right now. Secondly, you have pretty clear trauma around this whole field of medicine, given what you've said about your parents trying to manipulate certain reactions out of you and your siblings. I can guess that the idea of me walking you through how to change your thinking would feel like an invasion, Cotard says. Dave doesn't need to say anything to that. The way he tenses and pulls back at the doc's words is answer enough. On top of that, the wave of gut-churning terror that rolled off of him and smacked into you tells you plain and simple that the doc is on the money there. We're not going to do that. Even trying any of that is a terrible idea, he assures Dave quickly. So what then? I'm just fucked up forever? There isn't any fix to... I'm just broken permanently? Dave asks, with his voice bordering on tearful. Not at all. I have a plan, if you'd like to hear it. Cotard smiles warmly. Dave nods, but he's still obviously distressed. What we need to do is lower this water level, so your stress. For a start, I can prescribe you medication for anxiety on a temporary basis, enough to give you some breathing room first. Second, I can give you medication to take when you're right on the edge of a panic attack, so that it doesn't progress so far and isn't so damaging to your mental well-being. From there, I'd suggest that you do what you can to reduce the stress in your life as much as you can, both positive and negative stress. So, if that looks like not working for you, then do that. Or, if you find that being productive is more soothing for you, then do that. Whatever works. From there, I'd suggest working out some contingency plans in sessions with me. Cotard lists out. Plans? Dave repeats. Yes. You said you saw your sister, and it set off this most recent panic attack, so a good idea would be for you to sit down and plan what you'd say if you bumped into any of your family, or if they contacted you, to work out how you'd feel about anything they might say. If one of them said something very similar to what Hal said, would you be prepared to speak to them again like you are with him? Uncertainty can be stressful, but if you know what you would do in that kind of situation, then it's less likely to provoke panic when you're suddenly confronted with it. Not knowing what you'd say or do might well be one of those things that's taking up space without you realizing it. One of the clear balls, remember? If you get through that, then hopefully we can get your metaphorical water level down enough for you to start taking out some of the smaller problems and either solving them or dealing with them in a way that cuts them down to a smaller size. The doc lists off one by one. Dave looks uncertain and uneasy about this. You bet that you've got a pretty good guess as to why.
You've got that what's the catch face on.
You point out, making Dave grimace a little.
I mean, yeah, I'm not really buying this. Sure, I get that you've also been fucked over by shitty brain fuckers. I'm sympathetic. That doesn't make you trustworthy when you become one. It means I'm gonna listen to you more. I think I'd been out the door already if you weren't. weren't relatable or whatever, so, oh, I won't do anything bad is pretty suspicious. Dave nods.
Cotard leans back in his chair, stretching his legs out in front of him and crossing them at the ankles. He looks at Dave carefully and clearly considers what he's going to say before speaking. I can understand that. Let's be a little more honest, then. The medication might not work, and if I'm being upfront here, it's really just an acute treatment to stop you overflowing before we can make this less of an immediate crisis clusterfuck. People have different reactions to medication at the best of times, so even that's not a sure thing. That's just to start with. He begins.
Right. I know some things don't work well for me. Equius has a list, but also sedative shit is... I don't like feeling defenseless.
Dave says, with a nod, actually relaxing a little since the doc is being more upfront about things. That's good to know. We're not doing the medication that you take right at a panic attack, then. I can teach you ways of grounding yourself through that if it gets that far, but it may just suck for a while. Cotard says, with a little shrug.
It sucked, but it wasn't the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I want to not do that, but it's not like life gives much of a shit about what I want.
Dave snorts. Life's a bitch. As for the rest of what's in your jar, yeah, I'd prefer to get in there and start fixing shit with you. But until you trust me at least a little, I'm not going to be helpful at all. If anything, I'd cause more damage. I care more about getting you to a point where you can function. Fuck normal. The pair of you have magic ghost powers. Normal isn't a thing. But I can help you get to happy and healthy. But if you don't want to do the work to get through this stuff once we've got you past this crisis point, then I can't and won't make you. I think life would be better for you if you dealt with as much of this as you can, but if you can't bring yourself to do it with someone like me helping you, then that's your choice. After what you've been through, I can see why you might not want to. Honestly, I've felt the same at times. I don't even go to therapy all that often, only when something is wrong or when it's a mandatory work thing. It's a lot of hard work and it can suck. Especially when people have screwed that up for you. I don't do this job because I like picking people apart. I do it so that someone else in my situation stands better odds of getting me instead of some of the people I saw, so they have a better outcome. Which, yeah, that's a thing I do because of trauma. I understand if you don't trust me, but all I can say is that not only am I not interested in making you deal with this stuff if you don't want to, but hurting you when you need help would psychologically mangle me. I don't want to do that to you, and I absolutely don't want to do it to me, Cotard says firmly. Dave is silent, but it's not as if he's ignoring everyone. He looks like he's thinking hard. Then again, this is a lot to take in. When it becomes pretty clear that Dave is still considering things, the doc turns his attention on you. We're rebooking you. If he wants to have you here for some of this, if he chooses to see me, that's one thing, but you're still seeing me on your own, the doc says sternly, waving his tablet pen at you.
I was hoping so, man. Wasn't trying to get out of that. I just wanted to help Dave out is all.
You assure him. The two of you go through your calendars to set up your next appointment, since this appointment turned into whatever this is. When you're done, the doc looks at Dave. The question is clear, even if he doesn't ask it. Is Dave going to do this or not?
I want your notes, saved somewhere I have so I can see them. Not something you throw together afterwards and send me.
Dave starts. I can't save clinical notes on your personal storage because, data protection and all that. But I can make a secure one that I can give you access to, and then you can see that the files were made at the session. I can't make any promises about my handwriting being massively legible, but I'll do my best, he offers.
And if I want to leave, I can.
Dave goes on. You could have left any time you wanted to in the whole time you've been here. The door's shut for privacy, but it's not... The doc picks up a coaster from the side table and frisbees it at the open door button. He misses it and visibly deflates with disappointment. Out of mercy, you lean over and poke the door open button. The door opens, and then, because you've proved his point, you shut it again. Thanks. I'm mad that I missed that, but thanks. Can I have my coaster back? Cotard asks, so you go fishing for it on the floor by reaching over the arm of the lounge plank.
I don't want to bring bro into this, and I'm not translating shit he says for you. Talking about him if he's not here is one thing, but not with him.
Dave continues. Oh, hell no. Never, ever, ever go to therapy with someone who abused you. Absolutely not. Even if I could perceive the guy, I wouldn't do, and I'm not making you run some psychological seance. Not happening. Cotard agrees firmly.
And you're not going to stop me from balancing or going on missions.
Dave checks.
He can't. He could make a recommendation to NEP or to the docs that usually check us over if he thought we were about to die or whatever, but you know that shit just gets rubber stamped anyway. I asked him the same thing too. Here's your coaster thing.
You tell Dave and hand the coaster back to the doc. This is a different coaster. How many times have I done that? He mutters as he looks at it.
Alright, but what if I do let you do this, and I don't want to do what you tell me, or don't want to think how you tell me to?
Dave asks, and it's almost a demand with how sharp it is, but he's obviously asking out of fear. Well, like I said, I don't want to start out telling you to do anything or trying to change how you think. That's deeper down the jar, remember? Cotard says, and leans forward to tap the jar with the coaster you gave him.
And when we are there, if we...
Dave shakes his head, not finishing the thought. If it's a case of you think that I'm wrong about something, then we can look into that. So, if I said that I think you do X because your parents always did Y and you think I'm wrong, then tell me. Because it might be that your parents didn't always do Y, or that it was more often Z, or what have you. Then you'd tell me, and I'd reconsider what I was saying. The same goes if I said that I think it'd be a good idea for you to approach a conversation with someone else this way, but you think they'd take it badly because you know them better than I do. Tell me that. If it's more practical, then tell me that too. I mean, you already have. I suggested an acute medication for your panic attacks, which would be a sedative, and you told me those wouldn't be a good idea for you, so we're not doing it. But other times it'd be a compromise. If I told you that you need to go to sleep more, but you can't sleep for the amount I think you should in one go, then take naps or do a sleep study if you think something's really broken there. If you're simply not comfortable with a topic or suggestion I have, then either we can go back to it later or take it off the table altogether. You don't have to do anything you don't want to, but this works so much better if you tell me when you think I'm wrong or that you don't want to do something. Absolutely tell me that. The doc insists.
And what if this doesn't work, or
I hate it? Dave asks in a small voice. If my methods don't work for you, then I can find someone else for you. You also might dislike some of the process. I sure as shit do when the roles are reversed. Even if it's mostly positive, there's still parts where I don't enjoy it. Besides, even if you entirely hate therapy, or if it doesn't work for you, then at least you tried. Maybe I could point you in the way of something else that might work, or a way for you to do the work by yourself entirely. The fact that you're here and making a genuine attempt to get help is really great. It's not easy. I really want to help you, Dave. Cotard tells Dave gently.
Okay, Dave whispers.
You watch as the two of them work out when Dave can come and see him tomorrow, and whether he can bring his bark beast. Strongly encouraged. You think you feel pretty good about this, all things considered. The doc makes it clear that there's no way he's going to start head-shrinking Dave today, but if Dave really wants homework to do, then he can try to reduce the things that are stressing him out. You figure that you're all done when you both get to the door, but Dave hesitates, his hand frozen on the button to open it.
You said about good stress and bad stress. That's why the date was... I wanted to go, but it's...
Dave trails off. It's stressful, yeah. First dates make people nervous all the time. Later ones, too. Cotard nods.
Right, but even before that, I'd started doing the thing.
Dave goes on. The thing... The doc repeats.
The whole acting thing. Making a me that is what I think he wants, or is... Like, with my siblings, I had to be a me that wasn't getting experimented on and didn't know about the void.
Solix doesn't like me doing that. Doesn't like seeing me put up a front with other people, and doesn't want me doing it with him. I don't want to do it either, but it started happening. I could see it happening, but I couldn't stop it. That was before he even asked me on a date. Dave says in a rush.
I would say that it's a coping mechanism, compartmentalizing yourself to deal with difficult situations. You shouldn't have had to do it to begin with, but it sounds like it's happening even when you don't intend for it to happen, the doc says thoughtfully.
Because of the stress and being on the edge of overflowing,
Dave says, his voice slow and careful. That would be my guess from what we've talked about so far. Cotard nods.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, well, bye.
Dave mumbles, and then just leaves suddenly. You shoot the doc a look of surprise and point in the direction that Dave went. The doc nods. It's probably a good idea for you to catch up with him. You wave goodbye to the doc hastily and hurry off after Dave. He's almost out of the building when you catch him.
Hey, you good?
You check, holding the door open for him.
Yeah,
Dave says, and then frowns. I mean, no, obviously not. Why'd I just say yes? What the fuck?
Habit?
You guess. Now that you're both outside, Dave stops walking. He shuts his eyes for a moment, drags both hands through his hair as he breathes in, and then holds it. After several seconds, he exhales in a rush and lets his hair go.
I think I should probably go home, he sighs. And sleep, you suggest?
Dave's palm husk pings, and he takes it out to look at it, only to groan when he sees what's on it.
Apparently I have to pick this up first.
Dave grumbles and shows you. It's his prescription. Actually, it's a note saying that his prescription has been sent to a particular pharmacy in the region of his hive. Thinking about it, you really should update the ship's database to show that you're living with Tavros permanently, otherwise you could have problems if you ever need to pick anything up. Not that you usually get sick all that often. Equius says you have the constitution of a hoofbeast. Hoofbeasts have those spindly-looking legs, though. You'd have thought they wouldn't be all that healthy, but what do you know?
You don't have to take that stuff if you don't want to,
you point out as you start walking with Dave again.
No, I know, but I can't do what I know I've got to if I'm not willing to do everything I can on my side.
That doesn't mean that I'm happy about it. It just means that I'm going to do it. Dave grumbles.
What you've got to do?
You repeat. Dave shoves his hands in his pockets as he walks, his shoulders tight and his body language tense.
You heard the guy. Cut back on stress. I can't stop balancing. You're already taking on more than your share, and you've still gotta sleep. I can't touch the shit with my family yet. Can't fix things with the virus. Don't know what the other ships are gonna say. It's all off of the table or out of my hands. Except...
Dave sighs and walks with his miserable gaze set on the ground for several heavy seconds.
Except Solix,
he says finally. It's not that you're not used to thinking about that particular psionic pain in your side as a problem. You've got loads of history at that, but not like this. They're together, so Dave's definitely not contemplating punching his face inside out like you have a few times before, but...
It's a big leap to just space the guy, but I've got your back,
you say, playing dumb.
What? Okay, that's not as far as I was going.
Dave chokes. You're taking the startled laugh as a victory.
No, I've thought about this a lot before. He can fly, so just throwing him off a walkway doesn't cut it.
You advise him sagely.
None of these facts are technically wrong, but, yeah, not what I was thinking of.
Dave says, and his tone shifts from amused back to serious again.
What were you thinking? Was it that living with him and Karkat is too much? All that balancing and ghosts, or...
You guess.
No, surprisingly. Signless scared the shit out of Bro. Sai's chill when he's around, and I get on with Matuna fine. Not seen much of Signless. He and Karkat seem to be having a thing right now. I don't mind them. I like living with Solix, and if anything, Karkat's pretty entertaining to live with. Listening to him technically not reading aloud is something else.
Dave smiles softly.
Ain't it just the best? He gets so worked up over it.
You chuckle. The thought that you're not going to see that in your hive anymore flows over you, and the smile fades from your face. You're going to miss that. You wouldn't have listed that as a thing that you'd miss, but it's there anyway. Like one of the doc's little balls of emotions and thoughts, put away neatly in your blood pusher so it weighs you down ever so slightly with each beat. It's no big bad tragedy, not like some of the things you've been through, but you're sad about it all the same. It's that whole thing about good and bad stress still being stress. I like Solix, I hate him. Yeah, a whole lot. I'm fucking it up, and no matter how much he's about the doubles thing, I don't get a second shot at doing this stuff. I already ruined our first date. I can't mess this up. I want it. It's good for me, but it's stress, and every time I try to get closer to this, Dave gestures helplessly. Bad coping mechanisms. You fill in for him. You used to be there. You still lapse into it sometimes, where something pushes you into rage and intimidation, or you lash out with your chuckle voodoos and give in to that instinct to remind people of why you're at the top of the food chain, of why your caste was so powerful for so long. You're big, strong, and your voodoos can break people, but you know where you got that from. You know it's easier to hurt people than live with hurt, that it's safer to scare people than to be afraid. You know what terrible history in your species set that blueprint out, and what figure you picked that up from. The model in your mind that tempts you to act that way is entirely your ancestor. You don't want to be him. You know what it was like to cower in terror of him. You're not doing it to other people. And you say that, but people push your buttons too much, or you get sleep deprived or in a bad mood, or any number of things pile up to try your patience. It's all too easy to fall into that. You got lucky. Carcat didn't tolerate that shit when you were together, and if he heard about you acting like that, you'd catch hell, and way back when, he'd smooth things out for you a little. Ironically, the older you got and the more power he got, the less you needed that. He taught you to be aware of that shit. When you first started seeing Cotard, you explained all of that, and it more or less shook out that you'd become aware enough of it, and Carcat had helped you enough that the doc didn't need to do anything. But it is a coping mechanism. If you don't want to think or feel things, you do that instead. It's a bad one, but it still is one. Dave's thing sounds like it's more passive. A being somewhere else kind of thing. Keeping certain things locked down and acting like someone that it's safe to be kind of thing. Dave's always had a hell of a poker face when it comes down to the real shit, but he can do it at will. Like when you're playing poker. It kind of sucks for him that it happens without him meaning to. I want what I want, and that's not this shit that I'm doing, Dave says softly.
You're doing a lot, though.
You point out. Yeah, but it's not magic. Cotard isn't actually a brain witch that can make it all better like that, Dave says, and snaps his fingers to demonstrate. You wonder what it sounds like if the doc snaps his fingers on his metal hand. Can he even do that? I've got to break up with Solix, at least for now, Dave admits finally. You wince, and you hear yourself make a... You don't know what it's called. Like the sympathetic gasp of breath through your clenched teeth that you'd make if you saw a guy just full-on slam into a wall at full sprint. Like, oh shit, that must hurt. You think I'm making a mistake? Dave asks worriedly. Oh, hey, don't get me involved in that decision. He hates me enough as it is. It's been less since me and Carcat split, but if he finds out I had anything to do with this, then I'm gonna be a charred outline on the wall. You say hastily. Solix wouldn't do that. Dave sighs and rolls his eyes. The fuck he wouldn't. If you want my thoughts, it'd just be that... Hey, isn't that your place? You pause and smack Dave on the arm and point down the way to where the pharmacy is. You think that's it, with the far-off little green sign. Ugh, yes. Come on. Since you're apparently walking me the whole way home, you might as well come with. Dave sighs and veers off of his original path.
Anyway, my only thought is that what you're saying at least makes sense. I can see how you got from one idea to the next, then the end, but I don't know your beginning stuff. How it feels and what's in your head, you know?
You tell him. It's as much of an opinion as you're going to give on this thing.
Apparently what's in my head is a bunch of jelly ball things and far too much stress juice,
Dave says flatly, and the person ahead of the two of you in the pharmacy queue gives you both a weird look. You and Dave stare back at them flatly, and they sensibly return to minding their own motherfucking business. As they should.
Did you get one?
Dave asks you after the eavesdroppers have gone.
Fucking eavesdroppers, dropping their, What's an eaves, anyway?
You wonder aloud.
What, like eavesdropping? Isn't that just part of the word? You can't just take a part of a word and assume it's a different word.
Dave points out.
No, but if they're dropping, then the thing they're dropping is eaves. What's an eve?
You wonder.
Making me dig out my translation app, god damn it.
Dave mutters and taps away at his palm husk.
Well?
You ask after a moment.
Okay, it is a word, apparently. I have the word in Spanish, but I don't know what it means in Spanish either, he says with a frown.
You lean over his shoulder and read, slowly sounding the word out. You don't really know how to speak Spanish, but you know more or less how English words sound, even if you don't know what they mean. That makes your procedure for sounding out Spanish basically being do English, but with a vague accent. You are certain if you said that to Karka, he'd go scream into a pillow.
Alero?
You say slowly. A little, Dave repeats.
That's what I said.
You huff. It's not, but sure. Apparently it's part of a roof, which isn't a word I've ever needed, seeing as I stopped speaking Spanish almost completely when I was 13, and my young, blind preteen years weren't about being horny for architecture we didn't have on the ship, but yeah, it's the edge of a roof, according to this, which doesn't make a lot of sense for your idiom. Dave says. Mr. Strider? The confused pharmacist says, holding the small paper bag with Dave's prescription in hand. Dave wordlessly takes it and leaves, even though the pharmacist clearly wanted to ask him some questions or tell him stuff. Oh well, too bad.
What was I saying?
You ask, catching up to Dave.
Before your weird tangent? I was asking if you had a jar too.
Dave says. He's got his hand and the bag of medication shoved all the way into his sweatshirt pocket, like that makes it less real somehow.
No, but I'm not at the point you're at. Mine would just be, stuff happened to you, here's some things in a jar to show that.
You snort. Yeah, I guess the overflow was the point. Dave sighs.
It's cool that you saw him, though.
You tell Dave quietly as you head back to his place. What you mean is that you're stunned he went at all. That you're impressed that he white-knuckled it through that level of fear, all so he could get better. It wasn't exactly easy for you to do. Dave's fears bled into your psyche pretty well over the years. When you first saw the doc, you were really on edge too. Dave's got the real deal memories that make anything in that vein a literal nightmare for him. But he still went. The only reason that you're not going on about it is you're aware that reminding him of how much it freaks him out is only going to unnerve him more. Still,
Strider's got globes, man.
Thanks for letting me hijack your session or whatever. Dave says.
Think sponge seance? Since you're saying he's a brain witch?
You suggest.
1 second, just changing that on my calendar. That's officially the new name for that.
Dave laughs quietly and taps away at his screen. The two of you get in the elevator up to his floor, and by the time he's done with changing the name of his appointments in his calendar, you're on his floor. You walk him down the hall.
I gotta do it,
Dave says under his breath, likely to himself and not to you.
Oh man, you should maybe not be here.
Dave gets to the door and falters, patting himself down for his ID card and seemingly coming up empty.
Fuck, did I lose it?
he hisses. You knock on the door for him, and it opens just as Dave locates his ID and pulls it out of the last pocket he looked in, which makes sense because you wouldn't keep looking afterwards. The door slides open to reveal Karkat.
Dave! Gamzee! What are...
Karkat asks as he looks at you both uncertainly. You hear a clatter from within the hive, like someone scrambling up really quickly and knocking shit over.
Dave!
Solix calls out, skidding into view just off of the floor with a trail of blue and red sparks. Dave falters, taking one step inside the hive.
What happened? Equius kicked me out of there and you were gone all night!
Solix demands in what is obviously fear instead of anger. Karkat looks anxiously between them and then at you.
I have to tell you.
Dave tries. Oh, nope, not doing this.
Karkat, I need to borrow you really quick,
you say loudly. You grab Karkat by his sweater and yank him out of the hive, and as soon as he's out, you hit the button for the door, separating that clusterfuck from you two.
Gamzee, what the fuck?
Karkat yelps and squirms out of your grip.
Sorry, just saving us both from death by mortification.
You sigh.
What's going on? Where was Dave all night, and why is he with you now? Did he stay with you or something? Why would he do that? And what's all that about? And why did you drag me out here?
Karkat demands in one long list.
He didn't stay with me, but I can't tell you the rest of it. That's Dave's business. And trust me, you don't want to be in there right now. I sure as shit didn't want to get caught in that.
You answer him and lean against the far wall of the hallway. Karkat looks up at you, and you can see the gears turning in his head as he tries to figure out what's going on, what you didn't tell him.
Do you know where he was if he wasn't with you?
He asks slowly.
He told me, but I didn't ask him for more information on it. I wasn't running a quiz.
You shrug. Karkat narrows his eyes at you even further, so it's just red and yellow suspiciousness all up in your business.
If it was balancer stuff, you'd have said. You already said he wasn't sleeping on Tavros' sofa, and I know he wasn't with Aradia because Solix checked. There's no way he'd have gone to Hal since he's staying with family, and Dave wasn't drunk or hungover, so I doubt he was in the bar all night. That looked like you just walked him home from somewhere, which means you know where he was before this, so... What? He was somewhere all night and then with you after that, right?
Karkat says thoughtfully.
I'm really not telling you. It's not my stuff to tell.
Is all you say.
So it was personal then, fine. But what's that all about?
Karkat asks, jerking his thumb in the direction of his front door.
That's,
You're not sure if you should say, but then again...
If you go in there after and this hasn't happened, like, if what he was saying doesn't actually go down...
Then I didn't hear anything, don't know anything, and even if I did, I definitely did not get it from you. Yeah, I got it. Go on.
Karkat nods. You scratch your neck uneasily and look between Karkat and the door.
For reasons that I'm not going into. Not my business. Dave needed to talk to Solix. They're breaking up. That's what Dave said.
You tell him, keeping your voice low.
They're what?
Karkat hisses, staring up at you with wide and horrified eyes.
I know. In fairness, Dave isn't happy about it either, but he doesn't seem to see that there's much choice. I'm staying out of it, but I didn't want to be caught standing there in the doorway and watching that go down. I figured you didn't want to get caught in that conversation either.
You explain.
No, they should have their privacy, but... Are you serious? I don't get it. They seem so happy together. You should hear them talk about each other.
Karkat says softly, casting a sad look in the direction of the door.
Yeah, I've heard Dave a bunch of times. It's definitely not about him not liking him enough. If he wants to tell you about it, then he can, but I'm trying to stay out of it. I was just bringing Dave back.
You agree.
Fuck. Solix is gonna be devastated, and Dave... This sucks. Is there really no other option here?
Karkat asks.
I'm not telling you what to do, but I wouldn't get in the middle of that. It's more complicated than you think.
You suggest. An expression flickers across Karkat's face, and you know why. You weren't big on banning stuff for each other as Moirails, but every now and then one of you would put your foot down about the other not doing a dumb thing, though it used to be back when Karkat had a shorter fuse. You're not able to tell him not to do something now, or not any more than anyone else can. Karkat looks away from you, suddenly really interested in the floor. I'm sorry for how I reacted the other day. I know Dave kind of stole the intense reaction award there, but I definitely wasn't covering myself in glory at the time. You've got every right to date who you want, and I wasn't trying to imply that I thought there was anything suspicious about you and Tavros getting together that quick. I know you better than that, Karkat says to the floor.
I didn't mean for it to happen like that,
you insist. You'd been sat on Tav's lounge plank, drowning in despair about your situation. Everyone knew about you. It was anarchy out there, and you'd just destroyed your Moira legions. Dave was fucked up, Fazur was dead, you now had Solix and Karkat to contend with, and Tavros had sat there with you. He'd smiled, and it wasn't fake confidence. He told you that you'd be okay because you're strong. He said he wasn't that smart, but if you could just explain your problems, then he'd listen. And you had. Which was fine. You'd talk to your friends about stuff, and you'd talk to Tavros about things before, since he knows about the Void. But it was different. When you were talking to him, it felt like he was gently holding all of your problems in his hands. You couldn't stop talking. He'd kissed you, eventually, all sugar pale. It wasn't planned. It just happened. Karkat smiles at you now, a little sad, but still genuine. Gamzee, I know. Look, I'm not gonna say that it doesn't sting, but I still love you. I want you to be happy, and you're gonna hate this because Solix said it, but he's right. Karkat laughs softly.
What?
You ask warily. About how we're trauma surgeons or something? I got you and stopped all of that arterial bleeding and patched you back together. You cut out the overgrown parts of my rage gland or whatever. We had the life or death stuff down. We just weren't rehab and physiotherapy people. And it feels pretty shitty that I couldn't do that for you, but if Tavros is actually helping you past the point that I could, then I am happy. I want you to be happy, even if I couldn't get you all the way there myself. Karkat explains. You skid to a verbal stop as the front door flies open. The grateful love you that had been about to come out freezes in your throat. Solix is standing there. You'd been prepared for him to turn any anger he might have on you, but that's not anger on his face. He seems startled to see you both there, and maybe embarrassed that you're seeing him like this. He's very obviously trying not to cry. His eyes are all watery with goldish tears that haven't spilt yet. I need to back later, he forces out, and rushes off without a backwards look at you. Solix, wait! Karkat's voice trails off as Solix disappears.
I think I was right,
you say quietly. Yeah, it looks like it. Fuck. I'd probably better go inside and see if there's any way I can help, Karkat says and glances at the door. If Solix is gone, then he can focus on Dave, though you don't know how open to that Dave will be after today.
Sure, I'll see you around. Come up with a call sign already,
you remind him, and Karkat pulls a sour little expression. He's overthinking it and procrastinating. I'll work on it. Thanks for the heads up with whatever shit show this is going to be, and, we're good, right? I apologized, and you didn't do anything wrong, so... Karkat asks uncertainly.
We're good. You smile.
Karkat relaxes ever so slightly, nods at you, and with a wave he walks back into his hive. You turn away and walk off. You shoot Tavros a quick message to ask him if you can jam when he gets home. You want to get your thing sponge all clean because you're pretty sure you know what you're doing tonight, and that requires a clear head. You go to sleep early that night, and when you open your eyes in your dream, you can already feel it. Up at the seam between wall and ceiling in your room, there's a light flickering through a gap that isn't there, like far-off lightning or strip lighting dealing with a power surge. You'd figured as much. Getting to the lab is a dumb game of opening doors and wandering in the direction of things that make you feel shitty. When you're in there, you have to walk around for a stretch of time before you find him. He's stuck in one of those sensory deprivation pods. It's weird when you pull him out. He's a crying kid and you're an adult. It's a few minutes before you can put Dave down because he's got older, and a few more after that before you can open a door that takes you somewhere else. "What is this?" Dave asks as he comes through the doorway after you, aging up from 10 to his current age in 3 words. You don't ask what happened to him in the pod, how long he was there, and you don't mention how young he looked or that he was crying. He doesn't bring that kind of thing up when the tables are turned, so you're not doing it either. Instead, you answer his question.
"I've never been here. It's like a diner?"
You say uncertainly as you look around. The place has black and white checkered floors, little round tables with red chairs, and there are posters of absurdly happy people eating ice cream together on the walls. You peer around and see 2 staff behind a counter that has a big glass case.
"This isn't my dream, or yours. I think that's ice cream down there, and I think if Aradia was having ice cream dreams, she'd have bragged about it before now, so this has to be Karkat's dream,"
Dave says, and walks further into the place, looking around at each little detail he can see.
"It could be Solix's,"
you point out and follow him.
"Nah, plenty of bright red around, but there's no blue,"
Dave says easily. You catch the moment that he remembers about Solix and watch his shoulders slump ever so slightly.
"So, who are these guys?"
You ask, with a nod towards the vague figures behind the bar. You and Dave are more alert dreamers, so unless you're in Dave's nightmare space where the scientists being unsettlingly blank is the point, your dream background cast tends to be more fleshed out. When you look at these two, you don't get that. Another sign this isn't your place or Dave's. The 2 staff have entirely blank faces, but if you look at them out of the corner of your eyes, they seem normal but unremarkable. People don't pay attention, you know? You can't remember the face of that person at the pharmacy with Dave today, but you know they had a face. Unless you're staring right at them, that's the feeling you get. Entirely normal. Nothing to see here.
"Come on,"
Dave says quietly. He walks over like he's scouting, like you two are on a mission, and you don't know what these 2 people are going to turn out to be. They look up at you as you approach, which is weird as they don't have eyes. Actually, you're going to not look at them because when you think about them not having eyes, it's like they auto-generate them from the faces of people you know. It's creepy as shit. "Here you are, sir," one says, and slides a dish of some kind across the counter to you. It's a bowl, but oval-shaped, with 2 kinds of ice cream, one purple and one brown.
"It's all ice cream,"
Dave says. He's looking in the big glass case, and sure enough, it's filled with ice cream flavors in metal trays.
"What?"
You start to ask the dream people, but they interrupt you. "Grape soda and peanut brittle, sir. It's your order," the dream server says before you can even ask.
"He didn't order anything, though,"
Dave points out. "He already chose," the server says. There's the idea of a smile there, but you're not sure if it's sinister or not. You look down at the ice cream in the bowl. The flavors are already starting to mix together. If this is Karkat's dream, and it probably is, you doubt there's anything here that's harmful to you. If this was the lab, you'd expect it to be drugged, or if it was your dreamscape, it'd turn to blood or something. But in Karkat's dream, you're probably fine. You run the spoon through both flavors and take a bite. Sweet grape and earthy peanut dance across your palate, throwing a goddamn rave up in there. Dave shoots you a wary look, but you give him a thumbs up to reassure him until you're done with the ice cream in your mouth.
"Fuck, it's good," you say finally.
"We're so happy that you're happy," the servers say as one.
"Okay, somewhat unsettling ice cream dream aside, this place isn't so bad,"
Dave says, and turns his gaze back to the glass display case. You eat your ice cream in silence for a bit as Dave stands there. You get the impression that he's zoned out a little bit instead of picking what he wants.
I'm guessing that went bad since he ended up back there.
You say finally.
I don't know. Not bad.
There's no way of breaking up with a guy that you're crazy about that's gonna be good. He's still speaking to me, and he gets it, kind of. It's not like he agrees, or like all of me agrees. It sucks. Dave mumbles. He's staring through the glass with his shoulders hunched up slightly. You're not gonna say it, but you think he just broke his own heart so Solix couldn't do it. You're not really sure how this is better for him.
You know what? Isn't ice cream and being sad the thing that you're supposed to do when you break up? Can I get something?
Dave asks the faceless staff. The two people behind the counter look at each other. I mean, it's not... One says in a hushed voice. He can't, though. The other hisses back.
Oh.
Dave says quietly.
What do you mean he can't? You've got loads of ice cream.
You point out.
The damn case is full.
That's not really how it works here. You get what you're... One of the staff makes a vague gesture that you don't get.
That's fine. Let's go sit down or something. It's better than the lab.
Dave sighs. You glare at the staff, but turn to go find a table anyway. You're only a few paces away with Dave at your side when one of the staff calls out to you again. Wait, Dave, you could... I don't know if you'll like it, but you could have this. One of them calls. You both turn to look and see one of the vague people leaning over with a sundae glass in hand that has several scoops of bright red ice cream in it and a long spoon sticking out of it. Dave gives you and then the ice cream an uncertain look.
What is it?
Dave asks, taking a cautious step closer. Candy apple and dark cherry ripple. They answer him.
Oh shit, that sounds fucking amazing.
Dave gasps. We think it's great. The dream server says softly as Dave takes the glass. As soon as it's in Dave's hands, the dream people glitch back behind the counter and start doing work that doesn't make much sense if you watch them too hard. Dave sits down at the table you're closest to, so you join him. You eat your really good ice cream sundae for a moment and let things sink in. Just chill for a second.
How did it go then? I'm guessing not great, since...
You gesture to the side of the room you came from, where you pulled him out of a literal nightmare.
I mean...
Dave sighs and looks down at his ice cream. He seems to gather his thoughts as he drags his spoon through the red dessert.
There was only so well that was gonna go, right? Thanks for nabbing Carcat, though. I think that would have been way louder if he was involved. Everything is way louder with Carcat involved, but specifically I think he'd have tried to help out, and we probably needed to have that conversation alone. If I'd had more brains at the time, I'd have asked to talk privately.
He says sadly.
And that's about what I thought had happened, but I got to talk to Carcat too and figure stuff out, so it worked out.
You tell him. That's something. Dave nods. Dave has a spoonful of his ice cream, and you watch as his eyes go wide. He leans back suddenly in his chair and bangs one fist on the table as the other covers his mouth. He starts coughing and wheezing the moment he's swallowed. Dream or not, you're getting the idea that shit was poisoned somehow. You stare at the staff behind the bar, but their badly defined expressions are more sympathetic than they are malicious.
Holy fuck, that's... Oh my... Jesus fucking Christ, that's sour.
Dave coughs out.
Seriously? You were acting like you were about to die.
You snap. It shouldn't make you worry like that.
I thought I was. That was something else. I've never had anything that sour in my life. Or maybe not sour. Bitter? Is there a difference?
Dave wonders as he digs his spoon into the ice cream again.
I don't know. Why are you having more?
You ask in disbelief as you watch Dave bring the spoon up to his face once more.
It's kind of growing on me. Now that my tongue isn't like sandpaper, I can kind of get down with the sourness. Plus, it's a challenge now.
Dave says with a grin and has another bite. You'd blame this on Dave being human and humans being weird, but you're aware that this isn't that exclusive. It is very Dave, so you're not surprised. You're about to tell Dave that when you're interrupted.
Oh, of fucking course! I'm in this place again with you imaginary dessert bastards!
Carcat yells from around the corner. You and Dave look around and lean over to see Karkat as one. He's near what is technically an entrance to this place, throwing a full-on fit about it. Hey, you call out, and Karkat jumps about a clean foot up in the air with alarm. Hey, Karkat, nice dream, Dave says to him with a wave. You know this is a dream? Karkat asks warily as he comes closer. Yeah, you say, and Dave nods, already on another eye-watering bite of ice cream. Are you real, or are you something I dreamt up? Karkat asks, and cautiously pokes Dave in the shoulder like that's going to tell him anything. Why, Karkat? Am I the boy of your dreams? Dave asks with a grin. My nightmares overlap with Dave's. I pulled him out of his and into this somehow. It's yours, right? You explain and wave your hand at the ice cream parlor at large. Yeah, I hate this place. Karkat sighs, and Dave snorts. It's nothing compared to where he was just at when you found him. You get nothing! One of the staff from behind the counter yells at Karkat, and Karkat flips them off without even looking as he sits down. They're not going to let you have anything? Dave asks in surprise. They won't, he tells Dave. Do you want some of mine? You might not like it, but you could try, Dave offers. Karkat's face does this complicated expression that tells you that there's more going on here than Dave thinks, and he's somehow just walked into something without realizing it yet. They gave me this without even asking for it, you say, and point to your dish. That doesn't surprise me. The ice cream is a metaphor. More than everything in a dream is a metaphor because it's not real. I mean, it's especially metaphorical, Karkat explains. What's it a metaphor for? Dave asks, around a mouthful of ice cream. The ice cream is people, Karkat tells him. The ice cream is people?! Dave squawks in alarm, with a mouthful of the stuff still in his trap. Metaphorically! They represent people! It's not a Soylent Green is people kind of situation. You're not eating people! Karkat assures him quickly. You look down at your dish. Grape soda and peanut brittle. Ah. Me and Tavros, you guess, pointing to the flavors you have. Yeah, you're grape soda, and I don't actually know what Tavros is, Karkat admits. Peanut brittle, you fill in for him. Karkat seems to think about that for a moment, and then smiles softly. I can see that working really well. It's interesting that you two both have your own flavors, though. I've never had my own. I've seen flavors put together before, and I've had yours before. I bet grape soda and peanut brittle mixes really well together, Karkat says. He dodges around the obvious implication that he's seen Dave's flavor paired up with whatever flavors represent his ex's, but you can see that Dave caught it anyway from the sad look on his face. I guess that explains why my one is so sour to me, Dave mumbles and gets up. He walks over to the glass case and looks in silently. I wonder what yours is, you say thoughtfully as you swirl your spoon through your flavors, mixing them up as you go. Probably nothing good. I don't like this dream. The idea of people as things, something that you consume as well, it just doesn't sit right with me. Besides, I think this place appeared in my dreams when I was thinking about us and trying to convince myself that... Karkat trails off and gives you an uneasy look. When we were both pretending things were fine? You guess, and Karkat nods glumly. Lemon sherbet and Pop Rocks for Solix, right? Dave calls out, and Karkat looks over at him and nods. And what, this lime sorbet with the whole minty mojito garnish is Jade? Blueberry cupcake and Gushers is June. The green tea and the lavender Earl Grey flavors next to each other are Kanaya and Rose then. There's so many here, Karkat. Oh shit, red hot chili candy with the giant rainbow sprinkles has to be Terezi, surely. How'd you think all of these up? Dave asks from up there. So, what, is it everyone you've ever been attracted to, or? You ask quietly, and Karkat's face goes dark as he sinks lower down into his seat. Oh wow, is this Matuna? Sour lemon and 5-hour energy? Dave laughs from up at the counter. I was a kid and he was cool. Shut up! Karkat hisses at you. You try and keep your laughter quiet, but it's hard to do it. It's not like Karkat getting all hard-eyed over people is new in any way, but it's funny how embarrassed he gets about it. You've never minded it any. It always seemed like he just sees the best in people. It's still pretty funny to watch Dave obviously calling out the names of anyone in that ice cream case that Karkat's ever had any kind of thoughts about. Will you come sit down already? Karkat finally demands as Dave puzzles over something that sounds like it could be Equius. Yeah. Anyway, about these dreams, Dave says as he sits down again. I need to give you some warning. What kind of warning? Karkat groans, rubbing his flushed face with his hands like it'll help. Well, if me and Gamzee could get here, then you might end up in our dreams. Mine are all lab-based. They smell like antiseptic a lot, and they get visually pretty weird. Dave hedges.
Dave's memories of the place are from before he got his eyes, and they're kid memories, so it gets like a funhouse mirror sometimes. If you see that shit, you need to get out and back to a regular dream. You advise him. And Gamzee's are pretty dark, and it's the ship, but there's blood. Stay out of those. The best way is to find doors and open them and sort of expect something different on the other side. You can keep trying a door if you want. Dream logic can change what's behind it sometimes. Dave adds. Neither of you wants Karkat in your dreams, both for the sake of your privacy and because he doesn't deserve to deal with that shit. You and Dave are at least equivalently fucked up. Getting globes deep in each other's traumatic memories isn't a fun ride, but at least you're not shattering each other's sense of reality. You both know how much like monsters regular people can be. You've both been at that same level of horror before. Karkat hasn't, and you want to keep it that way for his sake. Is that what that door's about? Karkat asks, pointing behind you. You turn and look. The ice cream parlor itself is rectangular if you look at just the walls, but between some structural pillars, decor, and the counter, the place has a certain flow to it. Around the other side of the counter, on the same wall that the anonymous cashiers are standing at, is the regular door that you and Dave came through to get here. It looks like a normal employee door. To the right, there's glass walls that you can't really see out of, and a door that'd lead into the ice cream parlor. Karkat doesn't mean those doors, though. What he's pointing to is on the wall. The back wall of the ice cream parlor is set up to have those squeaky vinyl plastic booths, and it has one on either side of a very obvious space in the middle. Between the two booths, there is a blank wall with a circle on it that reaches up from the floor, with 10 dots all around its edges, and what looks like it might be a handle in the middle. You're not sure if it's real or not. It looks painted on. I've seen that before, in my dream, but only one of the lights was on.
Dave says with a frown. The circular thing on the wall does have dots around its edges, and true enough, 2 of them are faintly glowing white now. You shoot Dave a wary look, and both of you get to your feet.
That's not the door we came through,
you tell Karkat and walk over there. You hear him scrabbling to catch up with you both. Dave runs his hand over the wall carefully and looks at it up close.
What did it do in your dream before?
You ask him.
Nothing. I was trying to get out of the lab and stumbled across it. It was like this, painted onto the wall almost, but there's no texture,
Dave says. You touch a circle on the wall. It doesn't look much like a door, but you feel like it is one somehow. Dave is right. There's no change in texture that you'd get if someone had painted this on or stuck a design onto the wall like a sticker. I've seen this before, right there. I tried to go through it when I was getting away from Signless, but you can't, Karkat adds. So he thought it was a door, too.
It's got doorishness without dooring, so if we can't open it, who can, and where's it go?
You ask.
I don't know, but I think we should probably leave it alone. We should ask Aradia and Solix about this, too, see if they're getting it,
Dave says, and steps back away from the door. Should we stay here, or should we go through another door to some other dream? Maybe we could try to wake up? Don't they say if you...
You watch as Carquette goes to pinch himself. He does it really hard and immediately vanishes.
I guess that solves that.
Dave laughs weakly.
I think I'm gonna go dream somewhere else,
you say, and move away from the knot door to the actual glass doors and grab the handle of one.
Me too. I need the sleep.
Dave nods.
After you, man.
You snort and pull the door open.
So fancy, my own dream butler. This looks good. Night, man, and thanks.
Dave smiles at you and then steps through the door without waiting for you to say anything. You smile, shut the door, and after a second you open it again. On the other side, you get a hazy view of that cafe that Tavros loves, even though you've heard him talk about all the allergy stuff he has to get done to do his job and to go there. You take a contented little breath in and leave the ice cream parlor and its weird door behind.